Is your hatch handle button greasy? Is it gooey? Is it drippy? Well, if it is, you probably want to replace it with a new one. So I bought this kit from Amazon. Came with a new button pad, a couple new screws, and it came with an angled screwdriver. And I didn't do any research on this before purchasing it. I just figured since, you know, it came with an angled screwdriver, it was to make installation easy. Like all you do is you just stick the screwdriver in there and, you know, remove the old pad and put the new one in there. But this is not very easy. Like trying to get this in the, trying to get this in the actual Phillips head and getting enough leverage in there to turn it. You know, maybe somebody can do it. And I guess as that screw starts to loosen, you're gonna be getting closer to your paint. And so if you don't mind scratching your paint, but this just seemed really hard to me, and I'd be more frustrated with this than if I just did it properly. So I'm gonna remove the back panel and remove the handle and replace the button pad like that. First thing we need to do is just open the hatch up, and we got a bunch of stuff back here, which is fine. I can work around that because really we're just gonna be working right here. So we'll have to take this cover off. There's a screw behind here, and then we'll just pop this back panel off. There's a bunch of clips that go into holes across the back here. Pull it off and this will pop right off. So first, let's remove this. This just slides up out of place, I think. Yeah, it just slides up. And then use either a 10mm head socket or you can use a Phillips. Just pull that down. Now the panel should be ready to pull off, so you can get a pry bar in there. Sorry if it's a little noisy. The air show's going on. That's the Blue Angels you hear over there. We saw them a couple days ago. It was pretty sweet. Now that that panel is off, you can peel back the plastic and you can see the back handle. And what you'll do is get two 10mm sockets. And take off these two bolts. Come on. Doing it one-handed. I'll set you down. Now those two bolts are removed, we can come over here, gently pry this up out of the way. You pretty much just have to kind of finesse it. You gotta kind of pull it this way a little bit and then come from the bottom, kind of pull it, and then eventually just comes out. Now you do have a plug right there that you have to deal with. Or you can just leave the door kind of sitting like this and do the repair with it like this if you want, without disconnecting the wire. To get the rear handle switch out, you have to separate it from the decorative like trim piece. And I think some of these have clips. This one's a little different. This one kind of pushes into place. And so what I did is I got a screwdriver in between here and pried it a little bit. And then I moved the screwdriver right there and wiggled it to separate it. You gotta be careful not to break this clip, because if you break this, then your switch won't go back in place very well. So you gotta separate it there, and there's one on the other side right there. You can kind of see. So you gotta wiggle that apart. Sorry, I'm doing this one-handed. You gotta wiggle that apart to get it to separate. And there we go, got it separated. Look how nasty that is right there. That's gross. Nice and gooey, grimy. Get your hands sticky every time you try to open up the back door. Now, instead of using this, you can just use a regular screwdriver or screw gun. Now you have access to the screws. Gee, that thing is gross. That's nasty. So I went ahead and removed the old screws. Now we just need to pull this nasty piece off, scrape it off, clean it up. Now I just went ahead and removed the whole thing because it was kind of awkward working way up there. Now I can work on it because I got to clean all this gunk off of here. But essentially what you're going to do is you have this little clip that goes in right there that you got to pull out. And then you have this grommet that comes through here, and the pigtail, the terminal end, plugs in right there. So it comes out pretty easily. Now you can work on it on your bench, get it all cleaned up. You can actually pull the switch out of this little retainer and just get all that gunk off. All right, so I think I got most of the junk off, enough to put the new piece on. I just use a pry bar. You could probably use like a razor knife or a razor blade. Try to scrape off all that gunk, but as long as the button, you hear it click, as long as you get enough off for that to operate, then you should be good. And what a cheap part. Already broke stretching it over. Here, look at this. Oh, sorry, here, let me zoom in. Sorry, it like broke. It already kind of ripped. That's what you get though. It's only a $5 part from Amazon. But I got it on. It'll be tucked up out of the way, and I don't think it should get water in there, but you know, the switch functions and all that, so it should be good to go. So I guess on this bottom side, it doesn't fit very tight, and that's kind of where that rip is. But you know, it's gonna be sitting up underneath. All right, that's all installed. Now we can put it back into this piece. So we have it all clipped back together. You gotta make sure that wire gets tucked in there and then goes down that little void right there. All right, so here's where it came through. Kind of pull that back in place till it snaps in place. Insert that back. There we go. And then up here, woo, and then I couldn't get it with one hand, but put that clip back in place. And now you're ready to tuck this back in and bolt it back in from the backside. And that is it. Got that bolted back, just snugged. And before I put the cover on, I want to make sure it works. Shut it. Oh yeah, it works. And that's kind of what it looks like with the new one installed. So now we'll put the vapor barrier back in place, like so. And put this panel back on. Before you put these panels back on, you want to make sure you have all the clips. I had a clip come off, which was for this trim piece that goes along here. So we'll just set that aside because that will be for later use. This panel is kind of hard to get in place, but essentially you have this window track that is going to slide in here. So you want to take the panel and kind of put it in here, get it lined up. It's kind of tight in the corner and in this corner, but get it up here and then shove it down in place, and then all your holes for your clips should align. Then you can just snap it back in place. So I got tucked in place, and now we can make sure all those clips are gonna go right into the holes. Yep. You might have to adjust one with your finger. There you go, like that. If you have a situation like this where a clip came off of the trim or panel, we need to pull that out. So you get your pry bar in there. There you go. And you can just put it back in place on this side, which mine's missing a couple clips. Missing that one. Oh, that little dent right there. Pretty much just have that lined up and just push it in place. And don't forget the strap. Like I said, this little guy right here, kind of slide into that little pocket. Or you can pull it out I just pulled it out, and you can slide it in place here, or the other way, I guess. There we go. Now you can put it in place real easy. There we go, like that. Oh yeah. All right, so key takeaways. So even though it is cheaper than replacing the switch, the rubber is rather cheap. I get to zoom in here. You can see I got that little rip right there. So I don't know how long this is gonna last. So I may have to replace that at some point. So what do you think? Should I have bought an entire switch, replace the entire switch with like an OEM piece? Or should I have been a little more gentle with the rubber? Honestly, I wasn't being rough. I was being pretty easy with it. It's a pretty thin rubber piece. And it's not super tight like around that switch. It's just really thin and just ripped. Probably came from China, if you ask me. I mean, it was $5 with the screws and that little wrench from Amazon. So I would say it was probably doomed to fail. But at least my fingers don't get sticky now whenever I go to open up the hatch. Ooh, look at that thing. Look how bubbly and squatty it is. I think we need to lift it, put some meatier tires. What do you think? I think so.